Hello everyone and welcome again to the Autumn and Ivy drawing room. And today we're going to be doing something that's not history bounding, as you can tell by my awesome fashion. I know, right? Today we're going to do something called future bounding, if that's a thing. Let's just stick to calling it Dress for the Job You Want cosplay. And this is the job I want. So, I got the news that one of my favorite video games of all time, my favorite series, the Mass Effect game series, is actually releasing a Legendary Edition starting next year, which is all the games remastered. Cough, cough, Ilos, cough, make it pretty. And I was super excited because there's so many pretty things in that game, but either you kind of don't get the full effect because things are either not super rendered or my computer just sucks, which I'm working on fixing, but that is beside the point. Regardless, I was super excited that they're releasing a remastered series with all the games plus all the DLCs, and I'm super excited, and that kind of made me want to reignite my Mass Effect cosplay ventures. I've had like 4 different Mass Effect cosplays planned out, 2 of which were completed, one of the 2 that still needs to be remade, and the others were kind of in the works. They started, but then life happened and they didn't happen. So what I'm doing with this one, I call the Dress for the Job You Want. So as much as I'd love to be an N7 operative, I feel it's a bit more feasible, if it were a reality, to be a scientist. Which actually I'm working on making it a reality because one of the things I'm going to school for, I already got my visual communications degree, I'm good with that, and I went back to school for a degree in biology, which I'm hoping to apply to astrobiology, which is literally the study of life in the universe, from the microbiology, microorganisms, to potential life on another planet and biosignatures, and what to do on Earth to preserve life if things go sideways, which I won't say it. I won't say it. But that's basically what I'm going to school for. And so I figure it's pretty fitting for me to put together a cosplay that kind of fits with what I want to do as a career. You know, that's just what normal people do, make cosplays of what they are going to school for, right? That's what cool people do, right? I'm cool, I swear. So what we're going to start doing is we're going to start making the mock-up for it. So I have my little reference photos here. Ta-da! Reference photo. This is actually a reference photo of, you probably can't see, I'll put a zoom up thing later, but this is a reference photo of Dr. Bryson from the Leviathan DLC for Mass Effect 3. Why I'm using her? Because this is basically how every scientist in the Mass Effect universe looks. And it was the only one that I could find pretty good references out of game of, you know, side, back, front views. I found this on ArtStation, which I will put the link below to the artist, because always credit the artist. Always. So, ArtStation, got that. And I found this pattern, which I actually found, it's really, really old. I think it's from like the 90s, I don't know. But I found it while trying to find what patterns. I came across it accidentally while looking up reference photos for a Liara Sony cosplay. And I guess someone asked in the forum like what pattern would be best for making her outfit she wears in Mass Effect 3. And this is what someone recommended. It's the New Look 6673 pattern. Like I said, it's old. I do go on eBay to find this, so I don't know if you can find more copies. I'll put the name of the pattern in the description. But I saw that and I'm like, there's only a few of these left. I better snatch it up for, you know, for future references. Because not only do I hoard fabric, I hoard patterns. Because you never know. So I went with that, and this is going to be the main pattern base for my generic Mass Effect scientist. So, yeah. And so there's going to be some heavy modification done to this, because once again, you probably can't see it that well, but you could tell that there's some differences in the pattern. Like, for example, where the bottom of the dress meets, it's kind of like a circle, half circle opening on the actual reference photo. These do not have those circles, so I had to kind of incorporate that into the pattern. There's also real long gloves, which I made a pattern for the old-fashioned cosplay way of wrapping my arm in duct tape, plastic, tracing, all that. So there's that, and I made these handy dandy little patches using the computer, because each of the scientists have, like, I guess it's kind of like an identification patch on their arms. So I kind of put these together in Photoshop. So yeah, I have no idea what they actually say, because in game they're all blurred out, and the only thing you can really make out is SR2, which I don't know if that's related to the Normandy or not, because that's okay. So what we're going to do today in this video is just a mock-up for the generic scientist cosplay that I want to put together. And then after that, I try and, do the mock-up, sew it up, try it on, look fabulous in my totally not Mass Effect patterns, or fabrics, not patterns, fabrics, and then we'll see if everything worked out how I want it to. Like, the mock-up, I always recommend doing a mock-up with anything you make, but I highly recommend it if you're modifying patterns to fit a cosplay or a certain look. Because if you just trace it out and then cut it from the fabric, you might wind up cutting something uneven, or just it looks weird and wrong, and then you're like, well, I just wasted some good fabric. And I got my fabric here. This is my actual final fabric for my generic Mass Effect scientist, or Mass Effect astrobiologist cosplay. That's what I'm going to call it. And it is fabric that's wicking, sport wicking, moisture wicking fabric. So it's the stuff that makes like jerseys and stuff like that. And I kind of figured, since it's futuristic, they would be using more futuristic materials to make their outfits then. So you won't find the wools and the tweeds and the linens in the Mass Effect universe. Instead, you'll find like spandex, lycra, linen, sport, moisture wicking fabrics. And it only makes sense that, a scientist would have the super stretchy moisture wicking fabric, because they're out in the field always working in various climates. So they want to keep cool. They want to keep protected, especially if you're not on an alien planet, etc., etc. So I figured that will make sense, actually. Keep it as real as I can with my moisture-wicking sporty fabric. So it's kind of got like a little stretch to it, so that'll be nice, because the outfits are pretty form-fitting. And this is what I'm excited about. Shoes! Who doesn't love shoes, guys? Come on. So I found the perfect boot to use for my Mass Effect astrobiologist cosplay. Oh yeah. If you look at the reference photos, the boots are very tall. So tall. And they also have a platform, a big platform. So they look kind of weird. The way I see it is, the reason for that is because that's their gravity boot. Like, that's how they stay on the world. Because I know Commander Shepard in the Mass Effect games, if you look at like Mass Effect 3 or any game where she's out of the Normandy, out of a controlled environment, walking on the debris of a Quarian war. But yes, so as strange as they may be in the Mass Effect universe, they're quite functional because the gravity boots. So unfortunately these won't be actual gravity boots, but you know what? For the sake of making this cosplay look as realistic as possible, they'll do. So, and plus they also do a double duty of me when I make my, or remake my Commander Shepard and 7 Armor cosplay, I'll have the right boots for it too. And that's the thing I love doing with my cosplays, is making sure that it's multifunctional, so I can use it for very, like, many different cosplays, not just one and done. But yes, so with that being said, while I still have some daylight that is currently very much disappearing, let's get started on the actual mock-up part, and hopefully everything will go right with it, so that the next video I put together will be how I actually assembled the actual Mass Effect scientist cosplay. So let's go! Alright, so here I start pinning my pattern to this mock-up fabric, which is just a random damask fabric that I have so much of, that I got as a gift from an old SCA acquaintance. So we're gonna start. As I mentioned, this is the pattern I'm using for my Mass Effect Scientist cosplay. I'm going to be using this one right here because it's got the high neck and the long sleeves, and it's that dress. For the different cuts, if you look, that you see, it's kind of hard to see because it's really darkly printed, but the little cuts for the top have been drawn on here with pencil, and then that's what I'm going to wind up tracing when I'm transferring the pattern onto this fabric. So luckily this is a real short and quick little dress, so it shouldn't take too long, but we shall see. So I'm going to be making the size 10 of this one because it is literally the only size that can fit me, because I am a very small person. So what I'm doing is, as you can see, I'm kind of tracing out parts of it with this white charcoal pencil, mainly because this fabric is really dark and the texture of it is kind of obvious. I don't know, there's a lot going on in this fabric, so when I try to trace it, you see, like, you barely see the line of the tracing that I did. So I'm going over it with a white charcoal pencil because that brings it out, so it makes it easier for me to cut it out without, like, straining my eyes, or like cutting out something like I'm not supposed to, or cutting off too much, etc., etc. So I'm just going to trace over what I can't see. I have really bad eyes, so I have to kind of stare at this without blinking in order to keep my eye on where this line is, because it's a bad sight. If I blink, I lose track of the line. I'm like, oh crap, what do I do? Now I'm gonna start the bottom tracing, and here's where I integrate that line that I made. So where normally when someone would cut here, I'm actually going to cut through here following the pencil line I made and see what we get with that. I have the top done. I didn't bother on cutting out sleeves from the fabric just because I didn't really change anything from the waist up. So therefore I know the sleeves will fit because that's how I know, because that's the measurements it came with and like how the pattern was cut out. And I didn't alter anything up here, so I know they'll fit. And what I'm going to do next is I'm joining the seams over where these notches are. So there's going to be one part here, join in the middle. And then once I get all that put together and sewn, I'm going to actually bring it to my sewing machine, attach all the pieces, and we'll see what we get from there, which means I could do my first fitting. And if everything looks good, then I won't have to alter anything on the paper pattern, which means I can proceed to the next step, which is cutting out this entire cosplay in the actual final fabric. If there's stuff that needs to be altered, which I will do the altering on the mock-up, then I'll transfer those alterations to the pattern pieces, and then that's all traced onto the final fabric. So for now it looks like if this is all good, this is what's going to be traced onto the final fabric. So this right here is basically the template for my cosplay. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to mark out the 5/8 seam allowance on the ends. They're going to be joined with all the things. And on this part, which, if you can, like I said, you can't really see it, this part, it's kind of on the front and back, this like little, I don't know what you want to call it, fashion statement. That, like I already tell, this is going to be small, so I'm going to mark out about a 1/2 inch, maybe 5/8 inch, and then fold it in and like hem it, because that's, I left a seam allowance for this. And if that is the right size and the right shape they need it to be, then no, I won't have to really alter anything there. Okay, so time to draw out the seam allowances and attach the pieces. Okay, so as you can tell, I drew the seam allowances on one of the fabrics, or one side, because it's all going to be smooshed together, so I'm already going to have a seam allowance drawn on one side, so I feel like I don't need to do it on another side because it's already determined how big of a seam allowance I'm going to do. Now with this, the thing is with these patterns, these notches, they're more than just letting you know like, hey, this side gets joined. This lets you know where the side gets joined. So these little notches, you have to match those up, and that's how you know that it's joined evenly. If it's not joined evenly, then you get some weird, wobbly, squiggly looking outfits that just bunch in places they shouldn't, or gather in places they shouldn't, and all that. So it's always important to consider the notches. we put together our mock-up, and that's all done. It looks great. Actually turned out way better than I expected it to, which I'm super, super proud of. So with that, the next step would be physically try on the mock-up that I made to see if there's any adjustments that need to be done or if it's fine as it is and I can move forward. So let's see how this turned out. Ta-da! And here we have the mock-up on my physical being. So, as you can tell, turned out not bad for someone else freehand drawing most of the alterations for this. So, with the lovely damask fabric. Now the nice thing about mock-ups is, and why they're pretty essential, especially if you're doing period costuming, because the sizes for period costuming get a little funky. They're not normal modern sizes. But with mock-ups, kind of like helps you figure out where you need to make alterations while being on a physical body. Like dress forms are nice, but dress forms tend to not be your actual measurements. Like my dress form right now that I've set up with one of my Ides of Autumn gown, it's adjusted to my measurements, and so is the bodice that I made for it. Yet the bodice doesn't want to close and the skirt keeps falling, and then when I try it on my physical person, it all fits just fine. So dress forms, they're hit or miss. Like, I guess you have to get a certain one or figure out how to properly adjust it, but the way I adjust it to my measurements, and that didn't work for my outfits. That's why it's always best to make a mock-up and put it on a physical being, preferably the person you're making it for, to help you figure out like, okay, I need to fix up here, I need to take in here, like, do I need to alter it here, and etc, etc, etc. Like, even with the mock-up, like I can already point out about 2 to 3 things I need to fix that I wouldn't be able to point out on a dress form. So with this, the places that need adjusting, which luckily it's very small alterations, so that way I can do it on the final fabric, and I have to redraw all the alterations I made on the actual pattern. So with this one, the collar, the high collar, as of right now, it's not set right on the collar and the neck hole. So when I try to close it, this side's too short to this one, so it like closes off on the side. I don't know if you can really see it, but it currently has a straight pin in there keeping it closed. So that is going to need to be fixed for the final cosplay, which that would be, it's an easy fix. I just have to literally just adjust it. Like I don't really have to cut anything, just set it differently on the top of my outfit. Hello. Hi, dog. This is my demon child, Lucy. Fur. Yeah. Say hi to people. She is my assistant and likes to give me problems, but I love her like the death. She is my child. She will be making appearances like this frequently. Anyway, moving on. I get distracted by the bean toes. Can never not get distracted by the bean toes. Yeah? Yeah. But also, like, if you look on the mock-up, I'm gonna have to take it in a little over here. Like I said, the outfits are pretty form-fitting. So it's like literally like a wiggle dress, basically, what the scientists are wearing. So let's have to take it in a little here, which no biggie. And then over here, I'm gonna have to take a look at the reference photos to see if this will pass or not. But from looking from here, I'm gonna have to, this little slit, half circle, I don't even know what you want to call this. Split, let's call it a split, circle split. This circle split, I feel it has to be a little bit lower, because the way it sits on the scientist, it kind of goes literally right above the crotch. This is a little higher above the crotch, so I might have to work on that. And then I'm also, the leggings, I might wind up wearing, these are just standard leggings you could buy like literally anywhere. But I may wind up making the leggings myself because I like to make things difficult for myself. But then also I'm gonna have to make the gloves, because as of right now this is like a very rough, half-ass kind of cosplay look right now. I kind of just wanted to give you like the feel of how it would look all together without actually it all being together. But the gloves I'm gonna wind up hand making out of pleather, so that stretchy kind of weird leather, and they're gonna be opera length. And I'm gonna try something interesting with the gloves. What I want to do, like as you see, I have my lovely Omni tool here, and what I want to do is on the right hand glove, maybe the left also, but mainly the right because that's my dominant hand that the Omni tool is gonna sit on most of the time. I'm gonna put LED lights into the glove. I saw Adafruit had this kind of LED sequin light, so I'm gonna look into getting that to see if maybe they'll work out, because it's made specifically to be attached to clothing. But what I want to do is add the LED lights all along the glove, so that way when I'm wearing it, there will be like a switch somewhere, like on the palm or something, where I just press it and it lights up. And I'm hoping what it'll do is it'll light up the Omni tool because of how clear it is. It will kind of shine through it and kind of make it actually look like it's being projected onto my arm, just like in the video games. It's like in the Mass Effect games, like there's no like physical Omni tool, like it's kind of like a projection from like something that's on the top hand of like Shepard or the scientist or anyone that has an Omni tool basically. So like that's what I want to do and kind of make like a faux projection look without actually putting a projector into my glove, because I don't think they have projectors small enough to do that, and I don't think I have the tech skills to do that. So I'm gonna try that and like have the LED lights lining the glove, and hopefully they'll illuminate the Omni tool. So I'm gonna go for that, and like I said, like I mentioned in the earlier with the boots, I'm gonna put elastic to kind of, because right now you can see they're kind of falling, so I'll have to put elastic to kind of hold it to my leg. But I mean, overall, this is actually a really good mock-up. Like I said, I was not sure it was going to turn out good because I freehanded all the extra parts of it. So I'm like, oh, I don't know how it'll look, etc., etc. But it actually turned out real good, and I got from the mock-up what I needed. So literally the alterations I have to do: adjust the collar, adjust the front, and take in the waist a little. But apart from that, like this is all stuff I can do as I'm working on the final cosplay. And yeah, so with that, I can safely say I can now move on to the actual final assembly build of the Mass Effect Astrobiologist cosplay. So that will be the next video that I work on, and it'll be super fun to see, and they'll be considered my comfy con costume once we have conventions to costume at again. So that'll be like my comfy con costume, and it'll just be really cool. So there we go. I mean, what can I say? It turned out pretty good. I'm quite happy with it. I'm excited to start the final project, which will be on the next videos that I put together. And with that being said, thank you all for watching, and for everyone that's subscribed so far, or liked, or shared, or just been like, you go girl with your videos. Thank you so much. That means a lot. Like I said, this is one way for me to conquer my social anxiety while also sharing my passion through another outlet apart from Facebook and Instagram. So thank you all. Trust me, this all helps me a lot in many ways. And you know, if you haven't already, subscribe, like, share. I mean, that kind of means a lot to us people who are doing this for the first time. I'm still a noob, but I'm gonna get better. And yeah, so thank you again. Thank you for putting up with my awkwardness, and I look forward to welcoming you to the Autumn and Ivy drawing room once again.